Till next time, see ya. Till next time, see ya. Until then, 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 see ya. Until next episode, I guess. See ya. Till then, see ya. Until then, see ya. Until then, see ya. I'll see you next week. Till then, see ya. Till then, see ya. For the next episode, see ya. Until then, see ya. I'll see you next week for the finale of the series. Until then, see ya. Finally, we made it to the final of the series. Which also means that we're really close to finishing the album already. Oh, I should have finished it by now. Wow, 5 months for you guys. Or 6? 5 months or 6, I don't know. And roughly 8 months for me. An absolute monster of a project that I took on without even thinking much. Obviously, it wouldn't be possible without some help from my good friend Jack, but we'll get to that later. So let's just start right away with a track list because we're all excited about it, aren't we? Or at least I am. Okay, so the first half of the album, which is already out, I'll put it on this side first because we already discussed that before. Now, starting out the second half, we have the interlude to bridge the gap between the two halves. And also, it's not an album for me without the intro, the interlude, or the outro tracks. That's just for me. I need to have them. They just make sense. I'll talk about that interlude track in a bit because this is the first time I'm revealing it to you guys. So don't worry if you're confused or feel like you missed anything. There's nothing you've missed. So after the interlude, we'll have Options, Living in Circles, Gifted Kid, Enough to Love, Condition Imposter, the outro track, then No Promises, and then finally we have an extra epilogue. But before going any further, let me remind you of the double theme structure of the album. So the first half, as we already discussed, is about disappointment, and the second half is about acceptance. So essentially, we are looking for an answer in the second half that is along the line of an acceptance or a revelation in order to, process or deal with the disappointment that we already experienced in the first half. Because I'm skipping the interlude for now, starting with Options, context matter. If not everything. Option on its own is pretty straightforward, right? I'm not holding you to think of someone else. That's pretty much sums up the whole song. But that line itself, when I place it in the context of the album and along with the other tracks as well, it takes on a completely new meaning and it intertwines a lot with the concept of time, like past, present, future in the album. In order to hold on to something, you have to let go of something else. To hold on and accept and embrace the present, you have to let go of the past. I'm not holding you to think of someone else. I'm not holding the past to think of the present or to live in the present, right? While live in the present, I cannot hold on to the past. They simply cannot coexist peacefully, at least. And all the songs after Options are actual options that I have to accept myself or to find what I am really. So this is what I mean by every song in the second half has something that not every song in the first half does. A solution, an answer, or a conclusion at least. This is why when we come back to Option, it makes so much sense that it's in such a crucial spot in the album because the main message, the overall answer that we have from Option was to let go. And if you haven't let go of the past, you cannot tap into the other answers that follow after, like Living in Circles and Gifted Kid, Enough to Love, Condition Imposter, No Promises, whatever, all of that follows after. You have to let go of the past first in order to get to that stage. And the Option, like I told you from really early on in the process of making this album, I was feeling like Option was meant to be like a transitional track in terms of its theme, in terms of its concept, and even the music itself. It's basically meant to be a transitional track, smack in the middle of the album. And I feel like now that's really come through. Like the fact that option exists to do just that for the album. Let's have a look at the interlude now. I call it If Only, and it's honestly a song idea that I had for the longest time ever. And in fact, I even wrote like a little bit of it, like a chorus or so, I would say. The problem was I didn't really like it, so I just show it and leave it there on my voice memo. And that was in like 2022, I remember, maybe. And why it's relevant now is because until recently, or last year, not really recently, I finally managed to articulate the grief that I couldn't really manage to back then, in a different song, however. But somehow I name it the same too, If Only as well. So when it comes time to produce it, at first I was only thinking about like producing the track for the new song that I wrote that is about the same thing, If Only as well. And then after finishing that interlude, I felt like it was missing something. Like it's just not there. Like it just feel like there's something missing and there's not enough to it. So I just had an idea to turn to the original, If Only. I somehow incorporate the two versions into the same track. So I set up a challenge for myself there, basically. And how I got around and how I managed to do that was actually quite cool. It's weird saying this myself, but let me show you what I mean. So we're in the logic session of the track now. So as you can tell here, there's not a lot going on. And from here, like bar 17 is where I first or initially have for the interlude. Like initially I only have this for the interlude, just piano and me singing the new song that I wrote about the same thing. Let me play a little bit of that for you. Memories are all I have of you. Photos are the only place I can turn to. So yep, it's really sparse, it's really intimate. That's the vibe I went for with the interlude initially. Brown or orange region here is the raw voice memo that I recorded on my phone. I put it straight in there, thinking to myself, okay, let's make it work somehow. Oh, you can see the date here. It's on, the 26th April 2022. Let me check out the EQ. If only you tell me when you're gonna leave. You can tell from the audio quality as well that is recorded on an iPhone. They're both in different keys. All right, the voice memo recording is in A major, if I remember correctly, and the song I wrote is in B major, which are not that far from each other. So what's happening at the start here, was that I try to like get every recording of that demo of If Only that was in 2022. I try to get everything in here, and then with some cutting and chopping around, and then slapping an EQ on, I make it sounds like it's an old recording. Well, technically it is an old recording, but like I just like exaggerated that aspect of it. So from the very start, it sounds like I put some vinyl crackle on as well. Yep. So I made it sounds like it's like me testing out an idea and then coming up with a song on the spot like that, and make everything sounds like an old recording. So this is like a paying homage to the past, the original idea. Here's the fun bit: to transition into the new key or into the new song. I added piano and a cello and some pad as well. Up until that point, everything is in free time because, well, I have to work with a voice memo recording. So obviously there was no click when I was recording that demo. So everything has to be in free time. Originally, or initially, when I was trying to come up with this transition, was that just have the piano and the strings blending in slowly with that demo. And as that demo fades out, as you can tell, there's a fade in there. The piano and the string takes over and it builds up to a certain point and then everything drops. And then we get into the song. That was honestly one of the most creative moments for the album, I would say, to recycle a voice memo recording and then transition that into a new song. Yeah, I just love that bit. We have the outro and the epilogue at the end, which are basically just an extended parts of No Promises. Well, actually, only the outro is. Yeah, the outro that goes before No Promises is an extended part of No Promises, but I just separated them. It makes more sense that way to me. And then the epilogue at the end is a bit different. It just, as the title indicates, it's basically a conversation between the 20-year-old me and the 21-year-old me, which was just a quick idea that I had. And I just felt like, yeah, it'll be cool to have like the two different perspectives after going through everything in the album. Just have the two different perspectives of myself talking to each other, and now we move on from there. That conversation in that track pretty much sums up the whole story of the album, with the 20-year-old me represent the first half of the album and the 21-year-old me represent the second half of the album. Yeah, it will make total sense to you once you listen to the whole album from like the very start to the end, and then when you get to that track, having all the perspective needed for that conversation, yeah, everything will all add up. Anyway, I won't try to impose too much of my intention on your interpretation of the album. It's not the only correct meaning or interpretation of the album just because I'm the author or the creator of the story. So, what do I even want to do with this album? Well, usually, or up until now, I've only thought of an album as a snapshot of a point in time in the artist's life or whatever. But this album actually taught me that an album can be a lot more than that. I'm sure it will make sense to you once you hear the whole thing, but this album basically tells an extended story of how I've grown both as an artist and as a person in every aspect possible, in terms of the story, the concept, or the music itself. And it's not just a snapshot, but highlighted moments of a journey over a much longer period. So basically, I made this album since I was only 20-year-old, and now I'm 21 and almost turned 22 in a couple of months. And so it's over a really long period of time, and the progression of the track in the album, or the track listing, also really shows that process of growth as well. I even jokingly talked to my friend Jack that we could probably make a short film based on the narrative of the album alone, if we had the resources and the expertise, of course. Speaking of him, speaking of Jack, I do have to thank him a lot for his help throughout this project. And basically, anything coming out of this project that looks pretty, O has his hand on it. And everything else done by me, obviously. I just really wanted to say thank you, brother. I wouldn't have even started or even planned this whole project out without you in mind. And so, big shout out to you. Love you, brother. And also, another big shout out for you guys, and thanks for taking the time to listen to my music and watching me kicking out our music throughout this series that I barely managed to put together. I have to be honest with you, I felt like quitting after like 5 episodes in because everything I did in this series was a completely new challenge for me, from just coming up with the ideas and the concepts for the whole series, to scripting, to even setting up and filming with the limited equipment that I have, and then all the way to editing as well. I did everything myself, which was a bit of an overkill, not gonna lie, but I learned a lot from it, and it wouldn't be possible if there wasn't any of your support since the very start of me putting out music. I put myself through all of this because I wanted to show you a part of me that I didn't really show you before in depth. And yeah, last but not least, myself. Thanks for putting up thanks for putting up with all of the challenges and pulling through them. And for the last 8 months, yeah, I obviously have made a lot of mistakes. I almost lost a lot of files while organizing this. Yeah, I made heaps of mistakes throughout this whole project, but that also means that I've learned a lot more even. Feels kind of strange to me that this is the finale of the series already, like it's ending in front of my eyes. But like I said in options, a door has to close for another one to open, right? I have to let go of the past to welcome the future, or to embrace the present. Yeah, I hope you learn a lot about me and my music throughout this series. It's been a really memorable journey, and I'll probably cherish it for a really long time. For the album that's coming out in 2 weeks, I hope you find it when you need it the most, whether it's during the lowest points of your life and you need a moment of comfort or a helping hand to get back up on your feet. I hope this album is there for you. Or whether it's during your better days, and this album can be a pat on your back to remind you of how well you've done, how much you've been through, and how incredible it is, the fact that you're still here. I wish it comforts you, empowers you, and inspires you one way or another. Thank you, and I love you. I mean it. I'll probably be going back to making a lot more music now, and I'll be back with even more new music. And until I appear in front of you again with more music of mine, take care. Until then, see ya.
Pretend I like the sky and host the wind. If I can love you once and rest me, maybe I should not be here. Leave me fire. I keep on running, just looking down to dust from chasing the eye. Footsteps in the past. I keep on trying to still realize. Ooh, let me be where my heart is free of guilt to know. Maybe it's the same for you, cause you know that we know ways to fuck, I don't do enough, I am not enough. You wonder if I keep hating me, tough luck, I am on my own. No one is there if I don't show up. You don't wanna run until you can fucking run. Where can you run to? No promises, I won't do it, cause forever doesn't really exist. In this moment, I'm confident my love belongs to you, all of it. No promises, I won't do it, and no looking for what's out of the reach. If this moment, it's all that I have, you know I'm pouring all of it on now.
11:55. Your birthday is pretty much over. Get to work.
Soon the clouds will stop leaving my tears on your shoulders. So all you have to do is keep running. Just keep on running. Just go.
Listen to how massive this sounds.
Of you, all the stars that you were gifted with don't have to be lighting up Oh, the stars that you were gifted with eternity that's God above you. Oh, the stars that you were gifted with eternity light.
It's Monday, the 19th of August, and it's 1:56 a.m. And we got the first draft of the album. Fuck yes! And more importantly, I hope you find your own story. It's 5:46 a.m. I am done with the album. I'm done with it. Oh my god, I'm done. Wow.
Hold.
We did it. We freaking did it.